Hello and welcome to another Thyalwaysseek Q&A live stream. And this time I do have the audio working, guys. I am so sorry about that. I actually have to use the same USB port when I print out what I read from, and I just forgot to put the other cord in for my microphone. So I am so sorry about that. As I said, I'm a night owl, and so these early mornings, I'm still kind of waking up. So I'm sorry. And you can all hear me. Thank you, Edna. Oh, I was like right into discussing all these things, and yeah, you couldn't even hear me. So how funny is that? All right, well, let's begin again, shall we? So, first of all, I want to say hello to everybody, and happy Easter Sunday to you all who are still enjoying Easter Sunday. It's actually Easter Monday over here. All you guys now know what Easter actually represents, so doesn't it make it just that little bit more enjoyable when you actually understand what the symbolism regarding Easter is about? So I won't actually continue on into that. I did go into a little bit of a tangent, I must admit, when I was talking before without any microphone. So, hello everybody. Now, today's stream, as we can see by the title, is going to be how the Bible is an occulted work according to Jesus. Yes, Jesus himself actually said that the Bible was an occulted work. And so on today's show, or live stream rather, I'm going to go into exactly where the Bible says that it is an occulted work. And so, any Christians who get triggered by that, and many do, believe me, I have discussions with them all the time, and they literally gasp in horror when you tell them that the Bible is an occulted work. Because, of course, they've all been led to believe that the occult is evil, when really the occult literally means not revealed or secret. And so if you actually type that into Google, I find it interesting because I did want to see the definition from the dictionary, and I found the definition on the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it said adjective, not revealed, secret. But so many more hits from Google before I found this one from the Merriam-Webster dictionary were literally saying that it was about supernatural information and trying to put that whole it's evil and dark kind of slant to the word occult, which is totally incorrect, because even in astronomy, when a planet moves, when the moon moves or another planet moves in front of another planet, it's called occulting. That planet is being occulted. So does that mean that planet is being evil now? Is that how we have to apply that word there too? It's just ridiculous. So occulted means hidden. It's not evil. And the reason that they've literally made this appear to be an evil word is because it helps them keep others from looking into this type of knowledge, because they fear it. They don't have the courage to look outside of the Bible, because anything else outside of the Bible is evil. This is what their clergy have told them. And so today, if any of these poor, hapless modern Christians happen to listen to this live stream, or this subsequent video of the live stream, I want them to know that the word occult is not evil. It just means hidden, and that knowledge is hidden or encoded. It's secret. It's secreted. It is underlying the story, underneath the stories. And this is what Jesus tells them, okay? Because divine knowledge is not for the mentally lazy or the spiritually lazy. And so if they're just turning up to church every Sunday and they're just wanting to listen to a man that appears to be wearing godly robes, and he's very impressive, and he's sometimes quite charismatic and seems to be all-knowing, and he's in a very impressive temple. I mean, some of these churches these days, especially these pastors and priests who supposedly speak the gospel of prosperity, which is an absolute ridiculous notion when you look at the information that Jesus gives us in the Bible and what he states. You know, they're very impressive. And this is how the Catholic Church actually encouraged people to leave behind their own beliefs. One, they were literally burning them at the stake anyway, and under threat of death. If they did not accept their interpretations of the scriptures, they would be slaughtered, as would their family and anybody else that they probably held dear to themselves. But they literally built these huge cathedrals that were very impressive because, well, you know, God is impressive. You know, to us mere mortals, when we think of the Creator, well, we are just inspired by the omnipresence of this huge, unknowing deity or being or entity that has created the entire universe. And of course, to encourage people to believe that the man who is giving the speech, you know, and preaching at the front of the congregation at the pulpit is as impressive as God, well, you have to give him an impressive building. You have to give him impressive robes. You have to give him impressive rituals to give the congregation, so that they think within this physical operation that they are all enacting, that they are finding Christ and that they are being spiritual, when it's completely the opposite. Because really, you don't need to go to a church to find your connection with the Creator. Your church is literally within you. And the Bible even does say that you know, God actually already knows what you are going to say to God even before you say it, because God knows you completely, because you are part of God. You are a fragment of God. And I have mentioned this in many previous live streams, that we all contain a fragment of divinity within us, and it's just to different degrees, which is why some are divine. Jesus representing the highest degree of divinity, because he holds the portion in the highest degree. And then it just literally goes down in degrees. And there is a group of souls within humanity that are divine. 288 fragments of the Creator are literally the anchor of the Creator on the physical plane, beginning with Jesus. And so humanity, as in mortals, are an extension of the divine. So it's all in degrees. And this is what we need to understand, that we actually have that fragment within us. And so we have a direct connection to God, the Creator. And you know, even when Christians give me these verses in regards to praying to God through Jesus, it still literally says that God already knows what they are going to pray about. So it's really just symbolic to pray to the Creator through Jesus. It never says to pray to Jesus as the Creator. And we're going to go into that a little bit more. But to start with, I did just want to show you that the occult definition is not revealed and secret. And good morning to my moderators, Chris and Ronnie. Great to see you here, guys. Just a quick recap of the rules before I start getting into all of this is just not to give opinion and chatter in the live stream chat, because look, I don't mind if people ask questions relating to the actual text and we discuss those texts and any information regarding the texts themselves. But when we start to bring opinion because we've heard someone else say something, or someone on another channel has said something, or a new age guru, or you know, someone that seems quite impressive with a large channel and a large following, and so you've actually taken that information and placed importance on it and you want to discuss it in this stream, it's not really the stream to do that, because we try and get rid of all the white noise as much as we can. There is so much white noise and contradictory and different opinion, and we're trying to move away from opinion as much as we can and go back to the actual texts themselves. And that way we know we're getting knowledge in the purest form. So we're completely okay with discussing the actual texts, with discussing any of the actual verses in the Bible, any of the actual parables. If you have any questions about that, I do ask that we leave questions to the last half hour of the stream, just so I don't have to scroll back and go through all of the posts in the chat. But that's really all that we expect. There's no real rules, just not to chatter, not to create white noise. Be mindful of the other people here that are really here to try and engage in informed discussion for their own research and their own studies, because really, guys, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We are all researchers, we are all self-educating, and we are all looking for knowledge and trying to expand on our own understanding of this divine knowledge for ourselves. So I don't expect anyone just to believe what I tell them. And if you do, then you are really just creating or building your house on sand, as the Bible says. And you don't want to do that. You want to build your house on rock. Okay, so you need to actually go and confirm this for yourself, again and again and again, through all of the different sacred texts, symbolism, and all Hermetic science. And I've got all of the links. You can either find them on my website. I have a page on my website full of resources, and also in our MeWe group, Keepers of the Flame. You'll also find a library right at the very top post, where we add all of the texts that we have vetted and that are all as pure as we can find. And so that's what we basically recommend every student of the teachings do. Go and get the text and study the text and study all of the text. Never be afraid of knowledge, because the more that you start studying cross-culture and the more that you start looking at all of these different texts and all of this different knowledge, you start to see a common theme. You start to see the core truths. And so when you start looking at other information that doesn't align with all of those core truths that you continue to see repeated in all of the other texts, you know to reject that text or dismiss that information. And it's normally newer information that you will find. And I also tell people not to read any of the footnotes in any of the ancient texts that have been reproduced and printed, because often you will find that the authors have put footnotes down the bottom to help you understand them. Well, you don't need anybody to help you understand the footnotes, because believe me, you have just as much intellect as any of those experts. And if you are interested in this knowledge and not afraid of knowledge and are willing to go and seek out knowledge everywhere, then you are actually smarter than those experts, because you will find that a lot of these experts, they literally just focus themselves on one area. So you will find an expert who is perhaps interested in Kabbalah, but that is all they will do. They will just look at the Kabbalah texts. They won't look at the tarot symbolism. They won't look at Hermetics. They won't look at astrology symbolism. They won't look at cross-culture mythology. They won't look at any of the other holy texts. You need to find people who are studying this type of knowledge that don't focus just on one area, because it's not just in one area. This knowledge is fragmented for a reason. It was a way that they occulted the knowledge. You'll find that certain cultures and certain religions actually just focus on one area of the knowledge and are really basically relaying information about that aspect. And then each of the other all of the other information from other cultures and other religions are focusing on other areas as well, and because it's a complete picture. And that's a way they occulted the knowledge as well as they fragmented it. So you will never actually understand the Bible just by reading the Bible. You will literally just make up your own beliefs of what the verses are telling you, because you don't have the tools that you are required to have to understand the verses. Even numerology, you have to understand basic numerology, because all of the verses are numbered, and you will, when you understand numerology and what the basics of those numbers mean, you will start to see more deeply into those verses as well, according to the numbers at the beginning of those verses. So okay, so let's start looking at some of the parables that Jesus, literally said to us in regards to the Bible being an occulted work. And I expect a lot of Christians to be very, very triggered by that, because, as I've said, they're very, very scared of that word occult. Yet Jesus occulted the knowledge, because if you were scared of that word occulted or occult, and if you are too scared to look outside of the Bible at other knowledge, then you are literally not worthy of this knowledge. And we see this in Mark 4:11-12, where Jesus literally says, "The secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those on the outside, everything is said in parables, so that they may be ever seeing but never perceiving, and ever hearing but never understanding. Otherwise, they may turn and be forgiven." Now, a lot of people don't understand that last bit where it says, otherwise they might turn and be forgiven. And so what I'm going to do is read a paragraph from the Turba Philosophorium from Hermes Trismegistus. And I just want to see if you recognize the correlation between the verse Mark 4:11-12 that I just read and what Hermes is saying here. So it's the 64th dictum, and Pythagoras said, "How marvelous is the diversity of the philosophers in those things which they formerly asserted, and in their coming together or agreement in respect of this small and most common thing, wherein the precious thing is concealed. And if the vulgar knew, O all ye investigators of this art, the same small and vile thing, they would deem it a lie. Yet if they knew its efficacy, I probably said that wrong, they would not vilify it. But God hath concealed this from the crowd, lest the world should be devastated." So again, in this last paragraph, it's literally correlating to what we just saw Jesus say, otherwise they might turn and be forgiven. I don't know if you can kind of see the connection, but I'll let you know what that connection is. So now, before I say this, I want people to know that nature is just nature. Nature is not evil, okay? And the operations of the natural world and universe are just the operations of the natural world and universe to ensure that creation continues to be abundant and creation continues to be, in its purest form. Creation is for the good of the all. And that is the entire created universe, not just humanity. Okay, we're not that special. I know we think we're special, and it is really brainwashed into our psyches to see ourselves as special, because in these times everything is about our safety, and everything is about ensuring that we don't die of something, that everything is safe around us, because dying is evil in modern times. We no longer understand that dying is just a part of life. Death and life are literally hand in hand. It is part of the operation of our human existence to die and to live. And it's literally hand in hand, because when we understand that we are reincarnating into our physical bodies constantly over a 26,000 year cycle, we understand that it's just a process of creation. So there's nothing evil in dying. There's nothing bad in dying. In fact, nobody should fear death at all. And when you understand this knowledge to the degree that you should, and you will understand this knowledge to the degree you should if you go and do the study and research, you will no longer fear death. So in saying that, when Jesus says otherwise they might turn and be forgiven, and when the Turba Philosophorium says, and God hath sealed this from the crowd, lest the world should be devastated, it's talking about if people knew that at the end of the 26,000 year cycle, only a certain amount of souls go into the great new year, and so only a certain amount of souls experience life or immortality, then people would just be devastated in that knowledge. So this is how the universe tests us, and this is how we are tested also, and this is why this information is occulted, so that it becomes a natural process of the soul of whether you will pass the weighing of the heart and move into the golden age, or whether you will actually understand the knowledge and so act out in accordance to that knowledge. So example, if you knew that you had to be a good soul and not transgress divine law, because there are divine laws. When God brought himself into existence, divine law was brought into existence, and as I said, this is to ensure the universe continues in its purest form. And to ensure that, we have to make sure each soul is in alignment with universal law. When we transgress universal law, then we are out of alignment with universal law, divine law, and we create sin, we create karma, we create weight in our soul. And so at the end of the 26,000 year cycle, when we are weighed and measured to go through into the golden age, into the new cycle with the 288 divine souls, we have to have been weighed and measured and found worthy. And so if we knew that, then we would act out because we knew that. And so it would still then work that you would be acting out in accordance with divine law, but still only 144,000 souls would move through into the next golden age. And even though you may have been a good soul and not transgressed, it would still have to weigh and measure in degree of your goodness, if that makes sense, of your good deeds. And so it would not seem really fair that you had not transgressed, but you had just actually not been as pure of a soul as somebody else. And so that would devastate people to know that. I mean, it would make life seem hopeless, wouldn't it, if we were all to just still be virtuous and not be rewarded. So that is what that means. That is what Jesus means. Otherwise, they might turn and be forgiven. It is literally just saying that it is best just to let people act out without knowing the consequences to their action, because then they are actually being authentic. They are actually just acting out of their authentic soul, whether that be they transgress, then that is just because they have decided to act out within that side of who they are, because we all carry good and evil within us. We all have the potential to act out, you know, in a positive way or a negative way. We've all done it. You know, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We can always look back and see all of the ways that we did wrong to other people, that we did not live to the best of our ability, or our best self, our highest self. But it's part of our journey. It's part of who we are as a soul, and we're here to learn. And these are why our incarnations are literally our schooling. And actually, I was listening to Manly P. Hall, one of his lectures the other day. I have to thank Lisa, one of the fellow students, because I've never been able to listen to Manly P. Hall because the audio has just always been really, really, degraded. And I just cannot listen to it. It just does my head in. Within 5 minutes, I just can't do it anymore. So she showed me a channel where all of the lectures have actually had improved quality audio. And I listened to my first Manly P. Manly P. Hall audio about fate and destiny, which I will actually do a live stream about because it is so important. And he was literally, now I forgot even why I was going to tell you about what Manly P. Hall said because I've gone off on a tangent again. But anyway, I'm sure it'll come back to me. But yeah, Manly P. Hall, he definitely understands the operations as well. But I've forgotten. I'm sorry, guys. But anyway, I will post that channel underneath this video so that you can actually listen to some of the Manly P. Hall lectures. Now, I'm not saying to completely give up all of your knowledge about what the texts say and just listen to Manly P. Hall and believe everything that Manly P. Hall says word for word. We never do that, no matter how impressive any person is. And let's remember that Manly P. Hall was 26 years old when he wrote the Secret of the Ages. Okay, so he was 26. None of us know much at 26. Okay, even if we've read a lot of texts, we just don't have wisdom at 26. So even though it's a great work, it's not something that you just, forget everything else that you've read and everything else that you've studied. And Manly P. Hall has a lot of gems, probably more than any other modern philosopher. But you do have to actually, pick through his opinion as well as, where he's actually found the knowledge and applied the knowledge correctly as well. And remember, he wasn't a Freemason until I think he was 56, over 53 or 56, but he was definitely mid-50s. And he was literally just made an honorary Freemason because he just used so much of their symbolism and so much of the knowledge that he could actually access to help him with his own research and studies. So it's just good to have that in the back of your head when you're listening to Manly P. Hall. But I'm sure I'll come back to why I was going to bring up Manly P. Hall and what he said. All right, so let's go on to some more parables of where the Bible is actually saying that is an occulted work. The Bible is literally telling modern Christians that it is an occulted work, and they cannot just turn up and listen to their pastor tell them what to believe by just listening to the stories and applying them literally, because that's what they're doing. They take the events of the Bible that are just parables, teaching us and encoding truths within those stories, and they're applying them literally, what simple-minded people do when they're spiritually lazy. So that same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into the boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables. So that is Matthew 13, 1-3. Again, Jesus talking in parables. Jesus occulting the knowledge. Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of the world, said Jesus. Just for those that didn't realize, that's Jesus literally saying that everything he's telling people in the Bible, wherever it says Jesus said, he's talking in a parable because it's occulted knowledge. The truth of what that parable means is hidden beneath the story. So you can't just look at the surface and then try to understand what the story means. You have to look beneath the story. What is he saying? What is he really telling us? And so that was Matthew 13:34 to 35. Okay. The disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" He replied, "Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them." Now that seems really unfair, doesn't it? If you have more, you get given more. But if you have less, it will be taken from you too. And see, that is a way that we are tested. So the rich people have less of a chance to pass the weighing of the heart than the poor people, because they have less of a chance. It's harder for them to pass their tests. We literally are given our tests because we have to make ourselves worthy, okay? We have to challenge ourselves and strengthen ourselves. And it's in those challenges that we find our strengths. We can either rise to them or we can just succumb to them. And a lot of people succumb to them and they become bitter and resentful, and I'm just going to go out and be a criminal, and I'm just going to act out against society, and I'm going to act out against God and everybody because it's not fair. But some people, they actually use those tests to strengthen themselves, to challenge themselves, to make themselves a better person. And so within those challenges, we are actually given gifts to attain life, to attain immortality. Whereas the rich that are given everything, it's like they're being given enough rope to hang themselves. They're being given bigger tests than those who have less, those who have, a scarcity of materialism. So that's what you have to see your tests and challenges as. Don't see them as something that is a punishment. See them as a gift, because it is encouraging you to rise to the challenge. And it often says, never pray to Jesus. I'm sorry. You pray to God the Father. If you're ever going to pray, you pray to God the Father. But don't pray to God to take away those tests and struggles. Pray to God to make you stronger, to face those challenges, to face those tests. Because that is where you will find your immortality. That is where life is, in those tests, into raising yourself above them. And so they are a gift, and that is what that means, okay? So literally just see, when you see people who are rich, that's the best it's ever going to get for them, guys, okay? It's not going to get any better for them. So allow them to have what's left of their materialism and their worldliness, because that's it for them. That nice car, that nice house, those nice clothes, that's it. That's as rich as life will ever get. But real richness is within our soul, is within us, because that's where the rewards will come later for those who are, rising to the challenge and not transgressing those divine laws because they are bitter and resentful about, those tests and challenges that have been given to them. And then he says, "That is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear." So basically saying that if you already understand this knowledge to the level that you need to understand this knowledge, you're already partaking in life and following in Christ's teachings. And so you definitely do not need to go to any church to be saved by any preacher or born again. I literally had a Christian telling me that I needed to be born again, and I wouldn't understand anything else until I was born again. And they literally don't even understand what born again is. And if you do understand the knowledge and I say born again, you would know that born again relates to going through the weighing of the heart at the end of the 26,000 year cycle at, last judgment, and you pass judgment and you are rebirthed, reborn into the new cycle, into the new great year with the divine 288 souls. You have just been born again. See how they just do not understand this information and this knowledge except at the most shallowest surface level, and that is because they listen to their clergy, and their clergy tell them what born again believe. Their clergy tell them what resurrection means, and they do not understand it. And so they just parrot what their clergy tell them, and yet they will absolutely deny that. I mean, I tell them that, they don't really have knowledge. They just have what their clergy tell them, and they literally just interpret the Bible the way the Catholic Church has told them. And then they are horrified because, most modern Christians are not Catholics. They are horrified when you call them a Catholic. And yet they are actually interpreting their Bible according to Catholic canon. All of their priests are interpreting the Bible according to Catholic canon. And when you tell them that they are interpreting the Bible according to their clergy, they will deny that. And they'll say, no, I'm just interpreting the Bible the way I read the Bible and study the Bible for myself through the Holy Spirit. And I say to them, well, how come you interpret the Bible exactly the same way as your clergy interpret the Bible? And then you usually get crickets, because they have deluded themselves that they are literally studying the Bible for themselves with the help of the Holy Spirit, because they're so brainwashed, and probably from a very young age as well, that they don't realize that they're just parroting the interpretations of the scriptures exactly as given to them by their clergy. And their clergy are giving them these interpretations exactly as they are given to them by the higher level clergy, who actually have this truth. Because the lower level clergy don't know the truth. Okay, they're as ignorant as the congregation. The higher level clergy, and I'm talking very high level clergy, they all know the truth. And they are all very evil. And they are all literally working against God and the divinity within mankind, the Christ within all of us, which is why they are the antichrists. And the Bible literally does say that there is more than one antichrist, and that the antichrists will come in the last hour. And we are in the last hour. If you want to look at the entire 26,000 year great year as an hour, as 24 hours, then we are in the last hour. We are literally in the last 5 minutes, guys. We are that close now. This is why they are acting out so psychopathically. You look at them and people just can't understand why everything is so insane, and it's why so many people are depressed. So many people are on pharmaceutical medication for depression, because they're literally so confused and so unable to process the world in its current psychotic state that they need pharmaceuticals to help them cope and to numb them. And it's because the psychopaths have taken full control, and they really don't care anymore. I mean, this is why we're seeing them literally trying to say that a man can turn into a woman. They're literally teaching this to our children in school now. And if you don't believe this, then you are a bigot and you are hateful. They are literally encouraging our children to engage in degenerate behavior. I said this was going to happen on a very, very large scale. I said this years ago. I literally deleted that video because I was getting so much hate about it. I think I posted it in about 2014 or 2015, when I could start seeing where these parades, I won't say the word because the algorithms are going to pick it up, but they have these parades. And I could see back then they were literally making them family events. And I was horrified at this. And I had this big rant video about how horrified I was, how they were encouraging children to see this behavior as normal. And I got nothing but hate from it, from even people who used to actually follow my channel. A lot of people that used to follow my channel were actually of that persuasion with their sexuality, and wanted to believe that they could act out in any way wanted, and it wasn't going to transgress divine law. And I was just here to tell them that you are transgressing divine law. It's not my personal opinion. I really couldn't care what anybody does in their bedroom. It's up to you what you want to do in your bedroom. I take offense when you do it in front of children. You leave those children alone. Okay, if they grow up and they choose to have that persuasion sexually, then that is on them. But you leave those children alone. You stay the F away from the children. Okay, I have a problem when you drag children into that. And when you want to engage in this behavior and then expect everybody to be in agreement with it, and I just don't find it something that I'm agreeable to. I see that behavior and it repulses me. It turns my stomach, okay? And there's a reason that happens, and I'm not going to ignore that reason because I'm offending you. So yeah, I saw this coming, guys. I saw it coming, and I tried to warn people. And as I said, all I got was hate. People thought I was a hater and a bigot and intolerant and all these things, because it really wasn't to the level it is now. I mean, back then there weren't actual strip shows and literal, humping on stage and engaging in these acts with children nearby, dressing up in bondage with children nearby, dressing up as, dogs on leashes in bondage gear with children, encouraging children to pat them on the head like their dog. This wasn't happening back then. But I could see it was going there, and I tried to warn people, and all I got was hate for it. So I really hope that if anybody from back then is listening now, you understand where I was coming from back then. And you understand that I saw that this was going to evolve into what we have now. And so we can see that the world is becoming so corrupted. And I literally had a Christian say to me the other day when I said that, to test the spirits, and I'm going to go into how we can test the spirits and how we can make sure that we're getting information from people that are speaking on behalf of the teachings of Christ. But I literally had this guy say to me, how do you know that we're living in evil times? And he was a Christian. How do we know we're living in evil times? I mean, literally, if you can look around the world right now and you cannot identify as a Christian that we are living in evil times, there really is no hope for you. I mean, give up now. Seriously, there is no hope for you whatsoever. I mean, they literally just played out this pandemic card on us for the last 2 years. They locked us down. They forced, nearly, I think it's 72%, it's either 68% or 72% of the world's population has taken that shot. Okay. That's not normal, guys. All right. That's not normal. I mean, they literally just roll these things out very, very slowly so that we just become numb to them and we start to accept them. Okay, it's not normal. It's not normal that they're telling our children to engage in this behavior, that they're telling our children that they can be different genders. You can identify with one of 100 genders. I mean, there is 2 genders, guys, literally. There is only, chromosomes for male or female. And people say, oh, but there's some chromosomal, defects. Yes, they're defects. It doesn't mean that person is a hermaphrodite because they have an extra Y or an extra, X. That literally doesn't happen. And even that there is a syndrome, I forget the name, and I think there is an extra X, that is still a guy. The dude is still a guy. He just has smaller testicles. He just finds it harder to conceive. He's still a guy. He doesn't have 2 male and female organs. Okay, so they're literally confusing us on purpose. So we are in evil times. That is a good way to know that we are in the last hour or the last 5 minutes. And we still have a few cards left to play now. We're getting very close to them, and I've already told you guys what they are. Global financial collapse, okay? Then they're going to bring in communism. Okay, that's not going to be for a very long time. It's going to be very, very dark though, because they're going to control us completely. They want to literally be our gods fully. And that means they are going to watch our every move. Every single move is going to be watched. Just as God watches us, they're trying to emulate God on the material plane and be our gods in every way and form as a big FU to God the Father. That's how they're getting back at him. And getting back at us and getting back at the divinity within humanity, they're going to punish us. So then there'll be World War III, which is going to be thermonuclear war, and then we're going to have the apocalypse. So you know that when we're experiencing thermonuclear war, that's pretty much the last card. They're not going to have many more cards after that, of course, because they're going to destroy everything. And they're going to destroy what they can't inherit, because they know that everything is of the Creator. This is his kingdom. Humanity is in his reflection to the highest degree. So when the Bible says that God made us in his image, it means that we are the highest degree of the created living world in God's image. And that is why he holds us as more important than the animals below us, because if we look at the great chain of being, we know everything happens in degrees, and because we're closest to him in the flesh, in the physical form, they will destroy humanity as a way to destroy God. And so of course they're going to try and take out as many of us as they can, and that is why we need to not fear death, and we need to understand this knowledge to a very, very deep level, so we do not fear what they have planned for us, because we know that they will never destroy our souls. Only we can do that. And we do that by transgressing divine law, and we're pretty smart. Humans aren't stupid. And you know when you transgress divine law because you don't feel good about it. Your soul's telling you. Your soul's telling you, when it's not to do with you actually know what the laws are, because they're written in word form and you can see them. The 7 deadly sins gives you a little bit of an understanding of what those divine laws are if you wanted to see them in hard copy. But literally, you know when you're transgressing divine law because you don't feel good about it. If you don't feel good about your actions, it's because you've done something to transgress divine law, so you make amends. And when you make amends, you redeem yourself. Okay, everyone's redeemable. I don't know about those who rape children. I don't feel that they're redeemable, and that's a completely different story. But everybody who transgresses in just an average way of human nature, we can redeem ourselves by just putting ourselves back on the path, trying to make amends, apologizing, or trying to make up for what we did wrong. No good going and making making yourself feel bad and regretting your former life or what you did 10 years ago. Move forward. Okay, do what you can to make amends for anything that you've done, but don't live in the past. Okay, you're not going that way, you're going forward. So that's all we can do. All right, so let's keep going. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. And that's the other thing too. It's saying that most people will not even recognize the truth when they see it anyway. Because if it's actually not being delivered to you from someone who appears to be knowledgeable, then they will not accept it as a truth, because again, we've been brainwashed to actually accept knowledge in a certain way. You say we're not as good as wildlife. Well, Ravel to expand, it's probably because you have allowed yourself to dislike humanity. And so you dislike humanity because you can only view humanity through a very narrow perception of who we are based on these times in the Iron Age. And that is why, unless you go and actually seek out knowledge beyond the limited areas where you've actually been researching, and I have seen your channel, and I don't agree with a lot of what you've put forth as opinion. You seem to actually be focused on meditation and a lot of New Age beliefs. So humanity is absolutely a degree higher than animals, which is why we are gifted with the skills and attributes we are as opposed to animals. We can feel guilt, we can feel happiness, we can feel, we blush, we feel embarrassed, we have emotions that animals do not have. We are highly intellectual. Animals work on instinct. We have the intelligence to work beyond our instinct, which is why we have been gifted with free will to transgress divine law. The reason that animals and plants and flora are used for symbolism, archetypal symbolism, when we're looking at this knowledge is because instinct is closest to divine law. And so animals work within divine law because they work on instinct. So if you are looking at animals in the way that they work purely on instinct, so they cannot transgress divine law because they are purely instinctive, then yes, you would be correct in that way. But if you are looking at the intellectual nature of humanity as being a mirror of God the Creator, then no, animals are a degree under humanity. So you need to stop seeing humans as evil. And I respect that you live very aligned with nature, and I do truly respect you for that. And I've seen some of your videos, and I think that you are very informed in regards to certain fields within the natural world. And I think that you're an intellectual in that way. But you're still on the surface quite a bit when it comes to this knowledge, because you've got to move beyond your dislike for humans. And it's very easy to dislike humanity right now. And I see that with how people have a potential to elevate animals over human children. And you see that people will feel more sadness when they see a dog or a puppy or a kitten injured as opposed to if they see a child injured. And if that's the case, then you need to reassess why you feel that way, because you shouldn't feel that way. And if you do feel that way, then you are transgressing divine law, because we are the highest form of biological life in the material form of God. So God requires us to flourish and reproduce as to ensure that he continues to exist in this material form on the material plane, because he experiences the material form and the material plane through us, and he experiences that at the highest degree spiritually and mentally and emotionally through us. And so we are required, because we are part of God at that high level. And so if we are not honoring the children by protecting the children and elevating them above animals and above puppies and kittens, then we are failing in our duty of care to the children and to God. And there is an actual verse, and I really love this verse, and it's about if you actually cause the children any harm, that you literally will have a millstone around your neck and you will like sink to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, that's literally going to be the outcome of anybody that does not protect the children. And so, yeah, I would actually do some more work on the way you see humanity and learn to separate those who have followed the wide path to destruction and who are engaging in evil works, which is literally 99% of humanity, to those who are, trying to find the good in themselves. And it's easy to become a cynic when you separate yourself from humanity and you just see the worst in people. But I can tell you, I was very cynical about humanity too, and I do dislike humanity to a large degree in how they are operating and behaving in these times, because they are brainwashed. But I pity them as well, because they don't know any better. So I do understand that's where that ignorance comes from, and that behavior comes from a place of ignorance. But when I actually had to go back into the world and I had to leave my bubble, and I lived in my bubble for probably about 7 years, and then I had to enter back into society on that level, and I had to, take up a position of slavery to, exist in this matrix that they have created and this system that they have created. This allowed me to engage with people on that level again, and I have to tell you that there are good people. There are good people. There are a few of them. They're not in the many, but there are good people out there, and honest people. I have seen it with my own eyes, and I have experienced it, and I am sure that if you spent more time in society, you would actually understand that there are good people. So try not to become too cynical, because it hardens your heart, and you don't want to have a hard heart. Yes, you want to be able to identify that humanity has taken the wrong path and that a lot of people are evil and act in evil, but you don't want that to, you don't want to actually reduce humanity as a whole because of those actions of brainwashed people. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. But yes, look, I just think you just need to do a lot more study. Stay away from the New Age. If I can tell you one bit of advice, stay away from the New Age. Stay away from the whole meditating is going to raise your spirit. Stay away from looking at symbolism and seeing it as having energy and to raise your vibration. And it's not that. Symbolism is a language. It's just that. And symbolism is revealing truths to you. So you need to kind of, if we're going to look at this information and knowledge, and if you're new to finding my channel and you're new to finding this knowledge, you actually literally need to begin again. You have to remove everything that you once believed. That's what I had to do. We all have to do it. And you have to start again at the beginning. And this is why I say it's really good to start with the Hermetic principles. The 7 Hermetic principles are a very, very good way to begin your foundation of starting to gain knowledge again, and the correct knowledge. And then you can weigh and measure everything against those 7 universal principles. And so Hermetic science is the most ancient of all science. It is the one true science that we all used to understand, and that all of the philosophers understood, and that basically explain the operations of the universe and the divine operations of the universe as well, because it included the creator, which was the first principle, which is the mental universe. The creator is the mental universe. We are existing within the creator's mental expression. And so, yes, that's what I would actually recommend to you, so that you don't actually believe that humanity is bad. So yes, humans are the degree above all other animals and biological life on the physical plane. And so have a look at the great chain of being. Just go and do a Google on that one. Wikipedia will bring you up an article, and there is a really great illustration showing that chain of being from highest to lowest, and it'll kind of help you understand what I mean when I say that humans are the degree above all other life forms on the physical plane. So I don't like to use terms like post-centrist, and that's a modern term, okay? That's a university establishment term. And, you know, I see this with modern Christians as well. You know, when they don't like someone who isn't agreeing to the narrative that their clergy are giving them, they'll call them a name like, oh, you're a Calvinist. Oh, you're a Trinitarian. Oh, you're a Protestant. Oh, you're a... See, labels are a way to dismiss people. Okay? And, well, yeah, I mean, if you don't understand the human supremacy on the physical plane, it's because you haven't done the study and the research. So I'm not surprised you don't understand it. When you're using terms like anthropocentrist, I'm not surprised you don't understand it. You're still not really seeing beneath the layers, the surface layers of this knowledge. You're still seeing everything on the surface, and you're still not actually understanding the knowledge to that level that you need to understand it. And that's okay, because we all have to start somewhere. But I'm not going to continue on discussing with you. I do ask that you respect this stream and don't continue chatting in the stream because it's distracting to others. And we've got a lot to try and cover. We're already an hour in. So I hope that I've explained that respectfully to you, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from if I ask you to, you know, withhold the continual opinions, but you do need to do more research and more study. There is a really good quote, and I think it's from Heraclitus, and he says, the man that already knows everything cannot be taught anything. Okay, so be careful not to be that person, okay? Be careful not to be too prideful in the fact that you are a very informed person and very educated. As I've said, from what I can see from your videos, I think you are very intelligent. But sometimes that can actually work against us because we don't feel that we can be taught anything else. We already know. And it's really, we're working on beliefs. So you need, and there's a great chain of being there. Just as I was talking about it before, we can see it on the screen right now. And so I would look at that, and that will give you an understanding of why I say that humans are the highest degree of biological material form in the flesh, you know, in a biological form on the physical plane. Okay, so yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. All right. Then we've got Psalms 78:2. Give ear, O my people, to my teaching. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings from old. Okay, now dark sayings from old doesn't mean dark evil. It means unknown sayings, older sayings, covered sayings that we don't really understand. Because most of the knowledge, as I've said, was known back in the ancient times. It wasn't as occulted as it is now. But as we get closer to the Iron Age and we know that we're being tested and humanity is being tested, then the knowledge has to become occulted. Because when we move through into the Golden Age, we know everything. We know God. God is very present on the physical plane through the divine souls. We understand all the knowledge. This is why there's peace. This is why there is abundance. But it's when we start going down the great year into the cycle, as the cycle goes down into a more material form, into the Iron Age and the Bronze Age and then the Iron Age, and we're in a more material age, we withdraw from God. And it's just an operation, a divine operation on nature. It's not like nature, it's not like God turns his back on us, and that's how it's written in the Bible, because it's a parable and it's a story. It's just that it's a divine operation on the physical plane where the light and the Holy Spirit and the Christ consciousness is withdrawing away. So the light consciousness, the consciousness of the all, of the Creator, wanes. Just like the moon waxes and wanes, this is what the consciousness of God does from the physical plane, and it wanes, and it's like the principle of rhythm as well in the Hermetic principles, like tides go in and out, which is why you see the ether in the alchemical diagrams is symbolized by water, and that's what water means when you see them in the alchemical diagrams. And alchemy was also a way that they occulted the knowledge. So you could actually physically apply alchemy to the material world with the elements, but it was also a way that they occulted the truth, occulted the knowledge. So you have to look beneath alchemy in the material physical form and see what it is occulting, what it is actually relating to. And so water literally symbolizes the ether, and the ether moves in and out like the tide. And so you can imagine as we move down into the Bronze Age and into the Iron Age, the tide is moving out. The ether is moving out. And because the Christ light and the God's consciousness and God's presence literally uses the medium of ether to move in and out of the physical plane, as it recedes, we withdraw from the presence, or God's presence withdraws from the physical plane, and this is when we begin to be tested. Okay, so it all works in with everything else. It's all part of the whole operation. And this is why Jesus is saying he's uttering truths from old times, and we're not understanding them. And it's because we're being tested. Okay, this is all what it comes down to, being tested. The parables are there to test the spirits of us, to see if we're worthy of the knowledge. As they heard these things, he proceeded to tell a parable, because he was near to Jerusalem, and because they supposed that the kingdom of God was to appear immediately. And so again, Jerusalem, Israel, Bethlehem, it's all a symbolic term for the land, the physical material world in the golden age. Okay, that is why there is no way that we have an Israel right now. There is no way we have a Jerusalem. There is no way we have a Bethlehem. What the antichrists have done is literally just found geological locations on earth and then just named them after these places in the Bible. And then of course the simple-minded actually literally believe that it is Jerusalem and it is Israel. Right, so now let's move on to the Gospel of Thomas. And the very first verse in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death." So that is why it is up to each of us to go and actually seek out an understanding for this knowledge to the deepest level. To the deepest level. And the only way you will do that is use your own intellect and go back to the actual texts. Just as Jesus said in Psalms 78:2, he will utter sayings from old. He will utter dark sayings from old. You have to go back to the original texts because they are the purest form of knowledge. You cannot listen to the clergy, and you cannot listen to any expert who claims to know what the symbols mean, what the symbols in the Kabbalah mean. You get a lot of rabbis who claim to be experts in Hebrew and the symbols in Hebrew, and they find patterns in the texts, and then they tell you that they know what the patterns mean. No. I'm not surprised that people find patterns in the texts. They're there. It doesn't mean they know what those patterns mean. And as I've said, if they are only studying one text, if they are a rabbi or they are a Christian priest or they are interested in the Kabbalah and they're only just studying that one text, they're never going to understand what those patterns mean, what those symbols mean. You have to understand all of the esoteric knowledge. You have to have all the tools to understand the verses. Otherwise, you will be blind to the knowledge that is occulted beneath the verses in these holy texts. Jesus said, "The shadows of this world are perceived by mortals, and they think they know truth, but the reality which casts the shadows is hidden from them, and they do not perceive the light. I tell you the truth when I say that only when you perceive shadows as shadows and search the light will you perceive the reality which is God? And that is the Gospel of Thomas. It's a different interpretation or translation of the Gospel of Thomas, and it's called the Sayings of Jesus. And I like to actually read the Gospel of Thomas, the Nag Hammadi Gospels, as they're interpreted, but also the Sayings of Jesus, Gospel of Thomas as well. And you know, it's always good to look at different translations, because you again get to see a broader picture. You know, so this is why I like Bible Hub when I'm looking at any verse within the scriptures, within the Bible, because it gives you every single interpretation and translation. And that way you get to see it as a whole, because that's what you want to do. Then you are more informed, because you're stepping back and you're seeing the picture in a completed, more completed picture. All right. Jesus said, this is from the Gospel of Thomas, Nag Hammadi Gospels. Jesus said, I took my stand in the midst of the world. In the flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk. I did not find any of them thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity, because they are blind in their hearts and do not see. For they came into the world empty, and they also seek to depart the world empty. But meanwhile they are drunk. When they shake off their wine, they will change their ways. And literally, the wine and being drunk is a allegory for, incorrect information and believing in incorrect information and thinking that you have the truth. And really you're just walking around drunk. A lot of the symbolism in regards to the knowledge, and I've said this in the previous stream, is shown in the cup, is shown as relating to the fruits, to the wine. It is literally just showing that is how knowledge can be symbolized. And so this is why the Holy Grail is a cup. We also see it on the Ace of Cups in the tarot. Literally, hello. The Ace of Cups in the tarot, you'll see God's hand coming out from the cloud, and literally there's a symbol of the Holy Spirit and the cross, and there is water pouring into the cup and overflowing down onto the physical plane. And that's literally how we see divine knowledge. And once you actually open yourself up to divine knowledge, because you have the right motivation, and so you're not seeking to make a name for yourself, you're not seeking to profit from this knowledge, it's just that you want the truth for no other reason than wanting the truth. You have a pure motivation. You will find that knowledge is presented to you. Knowledge crosses your path, and as I've said before, you just start somewhere, wherever. It doesn't mean you have to go and look at a particular text. I say go and look at the Hermetic texts, because I always find that that's a great way to begin your foundation in accessing knowledge. But you don't have to start there. It could just be anything. It could be any symbol that has actually interested you. That is the divine, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to see it, divine mind speaking to your soul in an individual way. We're all individuals, and we're all going to actually access this knowledge and find truth in our own individual way. And so no way is going to be repeated. The way I have gathered this knowledge is not going to be the way somebody else gathers this knowledge. So what you have to do is, if you have a particular symbol that you see everywhere, these things happen to us sometimes. We just suddenly start seeing something over and over again. That is the universal mind speaking to you. So go and look at it. Go and look into it. Go and look at the mythologies about it. The best way, I always say, to look up information about a certain symbol is to actually say mythology after whatever it is. So rabbit mythology, or mythology about rabbits, mythology about this particular flower, mythology. And what will normally happen is you'll get, a whole heap of different hits of different mythologies, and then go and read those mythologies and then start to try and find the common theme. And that is the best way to try and find the information, is to find the patterns. Okay, pattern recognition is the best way. Just going to have a drink. Okay. So don't be drunk. Shake off your wine. Go and do the study. Don't have opinion already. Don't already have beliefs. Get rid of them all. Don't think you know everything already, especially if you're only finding this knowledge in the last couple of years. And you've been into a lot of New Age stuff. Get rid of the New Age. It's all half-truths. The well has been poisoned. It's a false path that they put there on purpose. Right. Now, these are just a couple of different quotes from different areas, different philosophers. The first one is from Origen, who was a 2nd century theologian, and I like to look at anything pre-4th, 5th century. You can still pretty much find a lot of truth, because by about the 5th century, 6th century, I mean, they were already starting to enact their evil on us before then, but they really grasped hold of their power around the 5th and 6th century. And I'm talking about the Antichrist Catholic Church. And literally, the Catholic Church wasn't always evil, okay? It was just a sect of Christianity, but that was the sect that the Antichrist chose to use to hide themselves behind and to infiltrate. And they had fully infiltrated the Catholic Church by around, the 1500s, the 1600s, because we can see that's when they started their crusades. Their real, literal going around the world, destroying culture after just culture, stealing the knowledge from these cultures. Anybody who wasn't actually in agreement with what they were doing was murdered, burned at the stake, hacked to death. And the Gnostic Christians, they made the last strongest stand, because they did not want to take and accept the interpretations, the canon, that the Catholic popes were insisting that everybody believe and interpret the Bible in the way that they had decided that the Bible should be interpreted. And the Gnostic Christians, which were also known as the Cathars, they made their stand, and they were slaughtered. And they say that nearly 1 million Gnostic Cathars were slaughtered. So just remember that these are the same men still in power, okay? This is a continuation of the same people that did this 600, 700, 800 years ago. They were literally doing this to people, and they're still in possession of these same texts and telling people to still interpret them in the same way. So anybody aligning themselves with the Catholic Church, and I read somewhere in an article this morning before I started my stream about the Sunday Mass that the head Jesuit Antichrist, Bergoglio, did. 100,000 people. 100,000 people filled Vatican Square. Okay? These people are so lost. I mean, they're literally listening to the Antichrists tell them what to believe. They've turned their back on Jesus and the Christed. They've turned their back on God the Father. They're the same ones that literally engage in idolatry, worshipping Jesus, worshipping Mary. We've actually seen pictures of Bergoglio kissing Jesus's feet, kissing statues of baby Jesus. I mean, literal idolatry. And these people, they're being mocked and they can't even see it. I really, it's hard to feel pity for them. It really is, because without these people, the Catholic Church, the Antichrist, would have no power. It's the people that give the Antichrist the power. That's what's so sad about this, is that it's the congregation that have given the Antichrists the power over humanity to enact the evil that they do. And there was literally another story, another article that came out about a week ago about a clergyman, a Catholic clergy in Maryland over in the US, who had raped about 500 children. And meditation, no, they didn't. Okay, look, meditation, okay, is literally clearing the mind of white noise. So I'm not saying that people shouldn't meditate. I think it's good to meditate. I meditate by engaging in artwork, by doing my arts and crafts. Some people engage in meditation by mowing and gardening. Other people engage in meditation by playing an instrument. You know, any way that you can empty the mind and clear it of white noise is meditation. If you think because you're just sitting there for an hour and you're trying to clear your mind, or you're focusing on one certain thing, that's not really a good way to meditate. Most people can't meditate that way. I can't. I find my mind is like always literally 100 things going on at once. I find it very, very difficult to just sit still at any time anyway, or stop, you know, thinking and talking. Or yeah, I know talking, yes, that's something. I'm a bit of a chatter as well, and I have to learn to try and not chat so much, because I do like to converse, but that's, you know, not what everybody can do. And I find a lot of people get really frustrated because, you know, back in 2011 and 2012, you know, meditation was a big thing. You know, a lot of people were into the New Age, and a lot of people got very frustrated when they couldn't just sit there and clear their mind. And so they had to listen to tapes, you know, or listen to guided meditations telling them what to visualize and all of this stuff. Again, that's not really meditating when you're visualizing. Meditating is literally clearing the mind. So if you go back to the Buddhist texts, and a lot of the Hindu texts, and it's big in the Buddhist texts and Buddhist religion, they are literally telling you to clear the mind. No, I'm not against the specific Buddhist definition. So it seems to me, Rebel to Expand, that you are here with already the beliefs that you have decided on, and that you just want to come here and argue with me about what I'm teaching. And I find that really disrespectful to me, because I doubt that you've had a look through all of my research. I doubt that you've had a look at my 10 plus years of studies. I think you've probably found me in the last 2 weeks, listened to a couple of live streams, listened to what I've said, and have made your determination on what knowledge I possess based on that. So I don't find that very intellectual to start with. I don't find that as somebody who's motivated to find truth. I find that it's somebody who has already decided on what they want to believe, and then they're just looking for others who want to prop up their own opinions and beliefs. And so if that's who you are, then that's pretty much not really what we're about here, and I don't think that we're going to be able to help you. So I'm going to ask that you refrain from any further comments. If you do continue to comment, I'm going to ask the moderators to remove you from the stream. And you might find that unfair, and that's okay. You can find that unfair. I'm not here to make friends. I don't take any money from what I do. I'm not a very popular channel, as opposed to other New Age gurus and probably other Buddhist gurus who you listen to, who probably have 100,000 followers. I'm not in this for popularity or for people to be in agreement with me. I'm here to reveal what my studies have shown me. And so you've got free will to disagree with me. Everybody has. But I'm not going to continue to engage in discussions about your opinion. The Buddhist example of meditation is that you clear your mind. That is what meditation is. Contemplation, if you're talking about contemplation, then that's something different. That's where you actually read a verse or look at a symbol or look at some esoteric knowledge, and you contemplate on that knowledge. You think deeply about it. You research into it. You know, go deep within your psyche and within your soul to try and have an understanding for what you're reading in that verse or what you're seeing in that symbol. But meditation, in the way that students of the ancient teachings understand and see meditation, and what New Agers define meditation, is emptying the mind. I know New Agers have tried to change the meaning to focus on raising their vibration, which is just ridiculous. Okay? You don't raise your vibration through meditation. You raise your vibration through action. Okay? The way that you are in nature, and you are trying to help nature is a way of raising your vibration. The way you despise humanity, you're lowering your vibration. Okay, that's how you see it. It's got nothing to do with meditation. So look, you are free to go and meditate on whatever you want. The Gnostics did not engage in meditation. It doesn't sound like you've actually studied the Nag Hammadi Gospels, because the Gnostics, the Cathars, they actually, they studied the Nag Hammadi Gospels. So I would actually make sure you're reading the Nag Hammadi Gospels. There are on some of the websites other Gospels that aren't the Nag Hammadi Gospels that they've included into that website. Make sure they're the Nag Hammadi Gospels, and I would study them. And I am not going to respond to you again, because you are literally making me waste my time in just answering your question. You are taking control of this live stream, and do you really think that's fair to others? Because I don't. Right. Now, so this is Origen, 2nd century theologian, as I was saying before I went on to the tangent about the Catholic Church. We can, look to these earlier theologians and pay attention to what they were saying. And he basically says the learned may penetrate into the significance of all Oriental mysteries, but the vulgar can only see the exterior symbol. It is allowed by all who have any knowledge of the scriptures that everything is conveyed enigmatically, i.e. esoterically. So everything in the scriptures is esoteric, is occulted. Again, hidden. Then we see one from Hermes, the Turba Philosophorum. I will place it where it will not be recognized by the foolish, nor ignored by the sons of the doctrine, for it is the key, the perfection, and the end. Salutatius, who was a 4th century philosopher, to conceal the truths by myths prevents contempt of the foolish and compels the good to practice philosophy. So it's only the foolish that actually, engage in all of these literal the literal understanding of all of these mythologies, and that literally is what parables are. They're mythologies. So not only is the Bible an occulted work, it's also a mythology, because it's full of stories, it's full of myths. And the myths are about a man called Jesus. He's a myth too. He symbolizes the firstborn divine fragment created from the God the Father, the Creator, the prime Creator, in the flesh. And that is literally what all of the esoteric knowledge is about. It's about the divine race. It's about the divine souls, the 288 divine souls. And mortal men are merely an extension of the divine souls. And as I've said before, we can see this in the statue of Daniel, because everything in degrees, even the divine race, they go from gold to silver to bronze. The demigods are the bronze race. And then we go Iron Man, and then iron and clay. Now, Iron Man are the mortal men who are in alignment with divine law, who have not, transgressed divine law. Iron and clay are mortal men who will not make it through the weighing of the heart, judgment, to go into the new great year cycle, to the golden age, because they have transgressed the divine laws and have shown themselves that they are not in alignment with creation. Because, as I've said, it's not evil, it's just that creation is for the good of the all. Creation is here to serve humanity. And I told you that I would remember why I mentioned Manly P. Hall, because that is what Manly P. Hall was saying in that lecture about fate and destiny. And that is that nothing that divine operation does is inherently evil. It's just because divine operation and a universal law is about abundance and creation, and for the good of the all, for the good of all of creation. And so that is why only the purest mortal souls move through into the new great year, golden age, with the 288 divine souls. And then we see one in the Zohar. Doctrine are its cloak. The simple look only at the garment that is upon the narrative of the doctrine. More they know not. The instructed, however, not merely see the cloak, but what the cloak covers. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. So Manly P. Hall, let's have a look at a couple of his quotes. The world desired to worship rather than to think, to pray rather than to work. Christ as a personal God, as preached by Peter, was understandable by the mob, but Christ as a universal principle, as originally revealed by St. Paul, was incomprehensible. Christianity became a lazy man's faith, and from it peculiar psychology was created those modern attitudes which are now threatening to ruin a civilization. Christianity became a competitive doctrine and a religion of special privileges. Uncurbed by reason, the absurdities have compounded until with their present magnitude they threaten the stability of civilization. And so again, talking about how the Christ is a universal operation, we have the Christ within us. So Jesus the Christ, or Jesus the Christed, is called Jesus the Christ because he holds the Christ in the highest degree. Again, why he is symbolized by Jesus, or symbolized by Thor, symbolized by Krishna. Actually, Krishna is the demigod, so he's actually symbolized by Shiva in the Hindu doctrines. There are many different names for the firstborn divine man. Apollo, Dionysus. I can continue going, okay? I can continue going, and I won't, because, you know, this is the type of research that all of you should engage in. And you should recognize that in all of these mythologies, cross-culture, when they're talking about a hero, a divine man, a god in the flesh, they're talking about the firstborn divine man who holds the divine portion within the highest degree. And this is what we see the symbol of the lamb represents. Also the symbol of the bull and the cow, which is why the cow is held in such high regard in the Hindu scriptures and the Hindu doctrine, is because the cow and the lamb are representing that portion within you that you hold your divine fragment. This is, you know, your connection to God, the Creator. And so we all have the Christ within us, and this is why Jesus is representing a man who holds the divine portion in the highest degree. So Jesus wasn't a literal person. There was no person ever walking around called Jesus. He's just a symbol. And I know when Christians hear that, when they hear that you are calling Jesus just a symbol, then they are very triggered and horrified, because they think that you are blaspheming God and blaspheming Jesus. But no, you are just literally understanding the parables for what they are. Then it says, this is another one from Manly P. Hall. The bishops of the church were mortal men, instinctively desiring power and authority, and they sacrificed the spiritual doctrines of Christianity to temporal ambitions. The majority of mankind neither desires to improve itself nor to support an organisation which demands a high degree of integrity. The outer body of the church increased to the degree that the standards of Christian living were lowered until at last, promising everything and demanding only temporal support, the church gained temporal power at the expense of spiritual authority. It is for this reason, particularly, that the Christian thinker must never confuse the Jesus of Nazareth with the Christ of the modern church, nor must the Christian thinker permit the clergy to interpret for him spiritual matters of which the clergy itself is ignorant. Oh, no worry, Chris. You have a good day too. Thank you for moderating. So, literally, Manly is telling us that, what I was saying before, that the lower level clergy do not understand the truth. They are literally just parroting what the higher level clergy are telling them to relay to their congregation. And so only the very high level clergy know the truth. Know this truth that I am relaying to you. Okay, but they will never reveal this to the congregation. Okay, they will hide this knowledge from them and just give them the parables and tell them to take the parables literally. Right, and then this last one here from Manly P. Hall as well. But if fraud succeeds and reaps a golden harvest, all of the blame does not rest with fraud. A person stupid enough to be deceived and waiting with open purse for some fantastic personality to come along and fleece him is certainly a party to the crime. People fundamentally honest in either material or spiritual matters are not easily fooled. It is the streak of dishonesty in human nature that makes fraud profitable. People desiring something they have not earned are most certain to lose in their effort to get it. It is the stupidity and culpability of millions that sustain corruption in every department of society and religion that cannot remain pure and undefiled, while men who make up the belief are themselves corrupt. So again, if you are susceptible to New Age teachings, if you are susceptible to the modern Christian teachings, then there is something in you that makes you want to believe in that makes you want to reject the truth. And so you are responsible for allowing them to fool you, because you want an easy path. I mean, everyone wants the easy path. Nobody wants to do the work. Nobody wants to have to stay aligned with divine laws. You just want to believe that you can go and meditate yourself to enlightenment. You can go and meditate yourself and all knowledge will just be handed to you, or you become smarter. You just have to turn up to a church and a priest is going to give you salvation. A priest is going to give you the ticket to heaven. A priest is going to, rebirth you. You're going to be born again because a priest says so. Anybody that is falling for these types of frauds are themselves responsible for that, because there's something within you that wants you to believe that. You don't want to believe that you have to be accountable. I mean, this is why the Christian teachings, even in the modern ages of Christian teachings, the modern Christian teachings, they tell people that even sinners go to heaven because all you have to say is you believe in Jesus. And they use this one verse where Jesus is on the cross and there's a thief next to him, and he says, the thief says, I believe in you, and he says, well, you are redeemed. I have forgiven you of your sins. And so instead of actually looking at that parable itself a little more literally, actually, and a little bit more deeply, the thief actually knows Jesus without a doubt, doesn't he? Because Jesus is right next to him. He knows who Jesus is. Do these Christians know who Jesus is? No, they only know what the clergy are telling them. So even in the Bible, when there are saints and apostles who are worshipping Jesus and calling Jesus God, they are literally before Jesus, calling Jesus God and calling Jesus worshipping and praying to Jesus as he stands before them. Are any of these Christians in these churches standing before actual Jesus right now? So how can they actually know who they're praying to if they're not actually literally standing there and they don't know who Jesus is, because he's not illuminated before them? So this is why they are being taken down this wide path, because they don't want to believe that they have to be accountable. I mean, I've even seen them say that they don't have to engage in doing good things. They just have to believe, because it's by grace that they are saved. And I've done a whole other live stream on that one as well, if you want to go and look into that. So they fool themselves. And I just love this one from Dante. And he says, "Oh, you proud Christians, wretched souls and small, who by dim lights of your twisted minds believe you prosper, even as you fall." And so they all think they're going to heaven. They all think they're going, Jesus is going to return and he's going to be their bestie. You know, he's going to welcome them with open arms, and they've got no clue that Jesus is literally going to despise them. He's literally going to, you know, tell them, depart from me. I never knew you, workers of lawlessness. He does not want anything to do with them because they are not following his teachings. They are not emulating him. They are not going out and doing good works. They are not going out and emulating Christ-like behavior. Because if we want to know how to be Christ-like, we just need to look at what Jesus did in the Bible and then emulate Jesus. And he didn't go around worship him himself. So anyway, and then the Nag Hammadi Gospels. This is Testimony of Truth, Codex 9. The foolish, thinking in their heart that if they confess we are Christians in word only, but not with power, while giving themselves over to ignorance, to a human death, not knowing where they are going, nor who Christ is, thinking that they will live when they are really in error, hasten towards the principalities and authorities. They fall into their clutches because of their ignorance that is in them. For if only words which bear testimony were effecting salvation. And what do? They just turn up to the priest and listen to words and repeat words. That's all they do. But it is in this way that they drew error to themselves. Well, it's pretty much telling them, but they'll never read the testimony of truth because they won't read anything that's outside their Bible. Now, this one is from the Colburn manuscripts, and I have told you know, all of you guys that if you really want to invest in a hard copy of anything, go get the Colburn Bible. The Colburn Bible, they have tried their best to discredit these scriptures. Wikipedia refuses to even acknowledge them and will not do an article on the Colburn Bible. And they have done their best to discredit them by using them to equate them to Nibiru and all of these false teachings. But you can still get the Colburn Bible in its pure form. You just need to look for the Master Edition. And I do have it in my list of links in the MeWe group, Keepers of the Flame. So if you want to find that, you can just go and look at the library that we have in the group. So this is from the Colburn manuscripts, from the Book of the Silver Bough, which is the Celtic scriptures. There are men satiated with worldly learning who have fallen into the pit dug by their own books. They are gorged and uncomfortable. Their diversity of opinions and thoughts confuses them. The study of the sacred scriptures is not for the curious. It is useless unless the student knows where he is heading, his destination, unless he has an end in view. Though the truth within the sacred scriptures is unalterable, can never change, the revelation can always be interpreted according to man's progress. The hidden truths are to be made available to man whenever he is ready. The spiritual man who is truly awakened sees much more in the words than the commonplace man who may see no more than the letters and words. Yet words are a forest in which man can easily lose his way. Fine sentences and a grand manner of expression may just be a lure and a covering for the pit and the stake. And that is exactly what the clergy have done. They've wear their fine garments, their robes, their godly robes, and they're in their godly temples, and then they're telling their congregation what to believe. They're looking at these parables literally. They're giving their congregation these literal childlike stories and telling them that that's how they should interpret them, just at a surface level. And as I said, they're doing this because the lower level clergy are ignorant within themselves. It's the higher level clergy that are giving them the instructions in how to relay this knowledge to the congregation. And the higher level clergy are all antichrists. Every single religion has been corrupted. I often say this to these modern Christians, and I say to them, do you really believe that everything else in these times can be corrupted and evil? You know, all of our schools, all of our science departments, all of our media outlets, you know, all of our education, you know, our universities, everything is corrupted but our religious organizations. Do you truly believe that? Because the truth is that the first things they corrupted were the religious organizations. So if anybody is attached to a religious organization, leave now, because they're all corrupted. And that's why I'm going to tell you how to test the spirits, okay? So the Bible actually tells us, right? So in these times, we want to test the spirits of people that are relaying knowledge to us, okay? Test everybody. And you can do that pretty easily, actually. So let's just read 1 John 4:1, and it says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, for many false prophets have gone out into the world." So how do we do that? Okay, to start with, do they emulate Christ in action? Are these priests actually emulating Christ in action? Are they humble? Do they have just a humble little car, or are they driving around in a beautiful brand new car? Do they live in a humble little abode, or are they living in a huge big mansion with all the worldly goods around them, all the luxuries around them? Okay, are they going out and actually helping the poor and the needy? Are they opening up their church to the homeless every night? Do they put pews in their church that can be folded down into beds, and then offering up their church every night as shelter to the poor and the homeless? Or do they just tell people to give them money and to trust them they'll just give the money to the homeless, you know, or they'll use the money to help the homeless? That's exactly what they do. But I don't think that you're going to find one verse in the Bible where Jesus asks to give him money. That Jesus asks you to donate money to him and he's going to donate that money to others to help the poor and homeless in that way. No, Jesus literally goes out and helps them on the front, on the, you know, the coal faces, at the front line. You know, he's there, right there, helping them. Do they call Jesus God and encourage you to worship Jesus? Again, you will not find one verse in the Bible where Jesus actually says to call him God, or where he equates himself to God. You'll find others that equate him to God, others that call him God, literally when he's standing before them. Okay, but Jesus will never tell you to worship him. Jesus never tells you to pray to him and call him God. So again, in these times of evil, the best way we have to raise the bar in how we test the spirits. So the best way we do that is let's just look to what Jesus did, because if we do what Jesus did, then we can't get it wrong, can we? But if we do what others in the Bible said that Jesus did, the parables said that Jesus did, then we're starting to actually, you know, create this vague grey area where we can actually start getting it wrong. So we just emulate what Jesus does, not what others say about Jesus. Do they ask for money? I bet you won't find one YouTube channel that preaches the word of God that doesn't have a donate button. Okay, one YouTube preacher out there that doesn't have a donate button. I mean, I literally even see some of these YouTube preachers who have, websites where they sell gold to people. There's one guy who literally tells people that, when the coming food shortages arrive, that they're going to need gold and silver because that's the only way you're going to be able to barter. And I know that the Bible talks about not having gold and silver, but they still have gold and silver. So, I mean, I don't really understand how you can, confuse having gold and silver and it being equated to being equated to something you can't eat, and then a YouTube preacher telling you, no, don't worry about that. You just go out and get your gold and silver because you're going to need to barter. So who are you trusting in? Are you trusting in God, or are you trusting in the gold and silver? He's literally telling you to go trust in gold and silver. And what did everybody say in the comments? Did they actually call him out like I did? I literally was the only person that called him out. All of these other Christians were in agreement with him. This is how simple-minded these people are. It's pathetic. Do they have idols in their church? I'm betting most of the churches have a guy on a cross. That's an idol. They have a statue of Mary holding baby Jesus. That's an idol. Again, test the spirits. Okay. I don't want to hear, but we know they're statues. We're not really praying to them. Oh, yes, you are. You're facing towards them, you're saying prayers to them, and you don't really know who the Christ is. So how can you not be, engaging in idolatry when you don't even know who the Christ is? You actually literally think there was a guy called Jesus walking around. His name was Jesus, and he's literally doing all of the things that the parables are saying he's doing, and you don't understand that it's just a parable and a story, and it's not to be taken literally. He didn't literally walk on water. It's a parable. Remember I said water equates to ether. Okay, it's talking about a time of ether when Jesus moves amongst us differently. He can be seen to be different than mortal man because he is Christed. He is the Christ, and therefore his actions, his operations, his behaviors, his movements are different. It could be that he literally looks like he moves as though he is walking on air, on water, on ether. But it's just telling us that the ether has returned and Jesus is moving amongst us in a way that is notably different. We can take that at least from that parable. So do they indulge in worldliness? Okay, so remember, we're testing the spirits of these people that are giving us this information. So again, worldliness would be asking for money, okay, because they need your money apparently if they're going to give you knowledge, because as we know, Jesus was asking for money, wasn't he? Oh, actually, no. Did Jesus have a donate button? No. So indulging in worldliness, didn't Jesus say to forego materialism? So I'm not saying that we don't need to exist in the world. We still need a car to get to work, to make a living, to pay our rent and our mortgage, to buy food, okay, to pay our electricity bill. But we don't make ourselves about these things. So we don't go out and buy the best car that we have to pay off every day, every week with like a huge, payment, just so we can be seen to be driving around in a nice car. We don't go and buy a huge big house. We don't go buy, we don't make our lives about fashion and, accumulating material goods like clothes and jewelry and all of these other materialistic objects. And yet you will find a lot of this clergy, as I've said, go turn up to any church on a Sunday and go look at all the cars in the parking lot. How many of those cars are just little bombs that literally, just get you from A to B? And I'm not saying that, everyone has to have that type of car, I mean, what I'm saying is that if you're indulging in materialism and buying the best of the best, then you are indulging in worldliness. And if your pastor or your new age teacher is, living in a beautiful mansion or a retreat, because a lot of these new age gurus, as we know, they live in these retreats, don't they? And they normally have these beautiful retreats, and they're either near the beach or they're in a forest, and $1 million retreat. I mean, really? How? Oh, that's because they tell people to pay to go to these retreats. Again, these are ways you can test the spirits, okay? Not hard to do. Hold the bar very high for the people that you accept knowledge from. Better still, don't accept knowledge from anyone on face value. Go and look it up through multiple ancient texts. Lots of the New Age teachings cannot be found in any text. You know, a lot of the New Age teachings, one in particular, where they tell people to meditate on your crown chakra, okay, because to meditate on your crown chakra, you can reach your crown chakra by meditating on your crown chakra, and once you do reach your crown chakra, you will be enlightened. And when you are enlightened, you will understand all knowledge. I mean, this is literally what the New Age teach people and what they tell them to believe. Literally, the Hindu texts tell you that if you reach the crown chakra, you have to shed your mortal coil. So you have to die to reach your crown chakra. That is what the Hindu texts teach. That is not what the New Age teach. So again, how many people that listen to the New Age actually go and look up the Hindu texts? How many people that listen to New Age gurus actually go and study the Hindu texts? Because I could tell you probably zero, okay? Unless you're starting to realize that the New Age doesn't have the truth, because that's what I did. I mean, I started with the New Age, and it was only through my investigations and my research that I realized that none of what they were teaching could be held up against any of the actual texts that they were proclaiming, you know, they got their knowledge from. And they're just hoping that you don't go and look that up. So I suggest you go and study the text. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to anybody. Engage in your own study and research, because you are an intellect. Believe me. Believe if you're going to believe me about anything, then believe me when I say that you have a God-gifted intellect and that you have the potential to understand this knowledge to the degree that it should be understood. And if you are interested in this subject, there is a reason for that. Don't just listen to this as a novelty, because it's easy to do. Engage in the study of this, otherwise it's worthless to you. Just even as the that parable that I just told you from the Colburn Bible said, that it's not for the curious. Okay, if it's just a novelty, then you're just no different than the sheeps out there, than the brainwashed herd. That's all that is going to be, you know, your fate is going to be their fate. So if you've come this far, if you've discovered this knowledge this far, and you're still just trying to get a handle of it, just continue and start researching into the texts themselves and into all of the other esoteric knowledge. Right. So, what were we doing? We were testing the spirits, weren't we? So now we come over here. Right, so as I was saying, nowhere in the Bible does Jesus ever equate himself to God or call himself God. Nowhere in the Bible did Jesus tell people to worship him. And nowhere in the Bible does Jesus instruct people to give him money or give money to charity. So, you know, Jesus doesn't walk around telling everybody to believe in him, to love him, worship him, praise him. And yet, what are all these modern Christians doing right now? And then they wonder why they're going to be rejected. They're going to be despised by Jesus, when they're literally doing everything but acting, you know, in a Christ-like way. Because to emulate, to Christian literally means Christ-like. I often say Christian is a verb, not a noun. To be Christian is to be Christ-like. To be Christ-like is to emulate Christ, is to act Christ. It doesn't mean to say you love Christ. You believe in Christ. And by saying that, you are going to get your ticket to heaven and Jesus is going to love you. Because Jesus never asked you to love him. He never asked you to praise him. And he never asked you to worship him. So why are you doing all those things instead of just acting as Jesus did and going and helping people? Because that is the best way to act like Christ and to behave in a Christ-like way, is to help others. Because to actually serve God the Father and to serve God the Son, or Christ the Son, who is God in the flesh, literally, a God with a little g, you serve humanity. You serve others. You do what you can for others. You be kind. You be kind to other people. You protect children and those who cannot protect themselves. You protect God's kingdom, which is animals, every animal, nature, okay? It is not paganism because you love nature and because you love animals and want to protect wildlife. That is not paganism. That is literally protecting the kingdom of God. You do not elevate nature and wildlife and animals above humanity and above children. It has its place, as I said before, but you do protect it. You do everything in your power to protect it because that is part of God. Nature is part of God. Everything is part of God. Everything in the created world is of God because remember, the first principle of Hermetic science is everything exists within the mind of the all. So God created everything. Everything is God. And we see this even in the Gospel of Thomas. And I think one day I might even just actually do a live stream about the Gospel of Thomas and we'll go through each of the verses in the Gospel of Thomas and I will discuss them. So, another one I wanted to just reiterate on is for those who call Jesus God the Father and who say that Jesus is God, and they always give you the same verses in Genesis, I am, they give you that. He doesn't say I am God though, does he? He says I am. He says I was within God before Abraham. Well, everything was within God before Abraham. Everything was within God before everything was created. The Christ was within God before everything was created on the physical plane. That's what that means. And see how it's written in a parable and they don't understand the parable? They literally think, well, he's saying that he's within God before Abraham was created. Well, that must mean he's God. No, because why wouldn't he just say, I am God? I am God the Father. But he never says it once. He never even says it once that he is God or God the Father. So why wouldn't he say that? He says, I am. He doesn't say, I am God the Father. Why not? If he's God the Father, why wouldn't he just tell us? Because he's not God the Father. He literally tells us many times he's not God the Father. He says, why do you call me good when only God alone is good? Well, he's telling you that only God alone is good because he is not God. That's why he's scratching his head. Why are you calling me good? Why are you praising me? Praise God the Father. So I always give this one to these Christians. And if you're ever in a discussion and these Christians start arguing with you, just give them this one. And it always literally, they will ignore that you've given them this and they will, just crickets, okay? Or they'll just change the subject altogether. So it's from John 10:31 to 39. I've just actually given you the couple of verses that I want to. So you can read the whole parables in its entirety from those verses. But I'm just going to give you these ones. The Jews picked up the stones again to stone him. Okay, they were going to stone Jesus, right? And Jesus answered them and he says, I have shown you many good works from the Father. Okay, from the Father. So literally separating himself from the Father, right? For which of them are you going to stone me? Right? Because he's saying all he's done is just done all these miracles and helped people and healed people and you were still going to stone me. So why? Why are you going to do that? And the Jews reply to him, it's not for the good works that you've done that we're going to stone you, but for blasphemy. Because you, being a man, make yourself God. And what does Jesus say to them? He replies, you are saying I blaspheme because I said I am the Son of God? So all of these modern Christians who elevate God, like Jesus, to be equal to God the Father or call him God the Father, they are literally making the same mistakes that the Jews made. When the Jews were accusing Jesus of equating himself to be equal to God the Father, and he literally corrects them and tells them, but I didn't say I was God the Father. I said I was the Son of God. So really, you don't need any other verse in the Bible to show these simple-minded, spiritually lazy, cowardly Christians that Jesus is not God the Father, because he's literally telling them that when the Jews accuse him of saying that, he corrects them. So anyway, I just needed to tell you that in case you ever come across a discussion with these people, and you can just say that, look, he's literally correcting you when you try to equate him to being God the Father. Right, so as I said before, if you want to be sure you're following Christ, you emulate the actions of Christ to the highest degree. You don't follow the teachings, the parables, because we're beyond that now. We're beyond that. We're out of time. Okay, so the best way we can make sure that we're emulating Christ is to emulate him in action, to do what he did, not to do what others say he did, or to act as others did when they were around him, because we're not around Christ right now. We don't know who the Christed are. The 288 gods, the 288 fragments of God the Father, the 288 divine fragments, divine souls are still hidden within humanity. We do not know who they are. Only when that time is upon us, when the illumination occurs, and that happens after the apocalypse or during the apocalypse, which is literally, the apocalypse means the revealing, will we know. And I've shown you before the star card, and you'll see that it's in the PowerPoint or the artworks that I'm showing you. I've shown some of the major arcana. You'll see that the star card is literally showing you after the tower, which is the shaking of the foundations. When the ether and the Christ light comes in, it's like a dam bursting open, and we're going to see massive earth changes, like volcanoes all going off in unison, massive like 10 magnitude plus earthquakes. Continents are going to be going up, continents are going to be going down. It's just literally going to be hell on earth, right? And if we survive that, if we're lucky enough to survive that, then we will see who are illuminated, and then that will be the Christed. That's when we will know who the Christed are in mankind. So they could be anyone right now, anybody at all. And remember, Corinthians 1:26-29 tells us, brothers and sisters, think of what you were when you were called. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many of you were influential. Not many of you were of noble birth. But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly things of the world and the despised things and the things that are not, to nullify the things that are, so no one may boast before him. So we don't know who the divine are, and literally they're not going to be anyone important. Anyone out there right now on the world stage, anyone claiming to have the truth, that are on the world stage, like the Vatican, like all of these large Christian congregations and churches, okay, these huge New Ages, all of these alternative media stars like Russell Brand and Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan and, any of these people that have a huge following, the truth is not with them. Okay, and turn away from them and literally go and seek out the knowledge for yourself, because we are not going to know who the divine are, because they are just going to be ordinary, commonplace, common folk, okay, around us, and usually not in positions of power at all. So that is another way we're tested. So be kind, people. Be kind to everybody, because you don't know who the divine are. And so that man that comes in and cleans your office at the end of the day, or that man who serves you at the service station, or that woman who works at Walmart, or that person who mows your lawn, you do not know who they really are. So they are your tests, because this is how we're tested. And this is why there is that other verse, I don't have it on hand, but it's the one that many have entertained angels and not know it. So be kind to everybody, okay? Because it's going to count one day, and you're going to, everything that I'm saying here is going to be revealed. Whether you believe me or not, it makes no difference. It makes no difference to my journey, and it will be shown to be true. And whether you believe what I am revealing to you today, and you might see this as a novelty, and you might see this as interesting, and then go on your way and go and listen to all these other channels. But one day you will know that what I was revealing here was the truth, and you will kick yourself if you didn't go and look further into it and do your own studies, because you will know in yourself that you denied your life, and you denied your soul, and you denied your Christ within. So there is a reason that you are finding this information and this knowledge. And I'm not saying that as a way to boast, because I'm not boasting. As you can see, I'm a very small channel, and I don't do this for popularity, and I don't make money doing this, okay? I'm just someone who put the fragments back together, and I didn't listen to other people. I just trusted in myself. And it probably helped that I wasn't already part of an organized religion, because I didn't fear knowledge. And I didn't get caught up in what I wanted the truth to be, because I noticed that a lot of people that started studying this knowledge back in 2011 and 2012 already had an idea of what they wanted the truth to be. So when they started finding knowledge and information that didn't actually prop up what they wanted their beliefs to be and what their truth to be, they denied it. And so that's not who I was. I just kept going and going, and I'm not a great intellect, and I often mispronounce words, and I don't have the best grammar, and I swear a lot, and I'm not perfect, but I can tell you one thing, that I have put my heart and soul into putting all these pieces of the puzzle back together for you guys, and I've done it for no other reason than to serve God by serving humanity and serving you guys in a way that I hope you go and become a voice as well. And you, and I'm not saying throw pearls to swine, because it's no use doing that, okay? Don't go and find this knowledge and then go and try and help your friends, all right? You'll know when you can reveal this information and this knowledge, and you'll know by what degree you can reveal it, because sometimes you can't. You just have to give them little gems, okay? Little bits and pieces here and there, and you have to be careful about how you say it, because we have to live in this world too. Okay, and we don't want to be rejected by our community and outcast by our community, okay? And it's very easy to do, because people will not believe that if they know you as a person in the flesh, like in your family and your friends, and then suddenly you start coming out with all this knowledge, they're just not going to see you as somebody that's going to be in possession of this type of knowledge, because hey, you're just this person, you're just my brother, my sister, my friend that I've got drunk with on the weekend, or that I've worked with, or so it's no use giving these pearls to people in your community. The best place to do it is online. The best place to do it is to go and visit YouTube channels where they are preaching misinformation and disinformation about the scriptures, and engage with modern Christians, because you just might reach a couple of these modern Christians who are already having doubts, who are already open to looking outside of the Bible. And that's what I try and do. It won't be the ones that you're arguing with. Forget about them, okay? And you'll have interactions that can last days, believe me, all right? Because they will hold on to their truths no matter what, their beliefs no matter what, because they literally believe their souls depend on it, right? So they will argue to the ends. But it's the other people reading those interactions, okay? The other people that are reading the interactions who are going to consider what you're saying. And so if you do want to help people, that's how I would do it, okay? I would do it in that way, as well as being kind when you can help others. If you see you can help somebody, help them. Okay, the best that you can. Right. So I'm just going to finish off with a few more verses, and then I'll answer questions. So if you've got any questions, guys, now's the time to put them down. Right. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Amen. That's in Romans 1:25. So do not corrupt yourselves by making an idol in any form, whether of a man or a woman. Deuteronomy 4:16. Hello, modern Christians. Are you listening to that? Do not make an idol in any form, whether of a man or a woman. I'm specifically talking to Catholics, because I know you guys just love the old idol worshipping. And I know that your clergy are right into the idol worshipping, especially your Jesuit Antichrist Pope, who often kisses these statues. Okay? Disgusting, despicable, and against the teachings of Christ, against the teachings in your scriptures. So why are you not listening to these teachings? And you are actually following mortal men who are wearing robes and appearing to have truth instead. Their land is filled with idols. They bow down to the work of their hands, to what their fingers have made. Again, anything you make in the shape of a man or a woman is an idol. And it doesn't even mean that you're praying to them, okay? You might be able to go to your church and you don't actually pray to that statue. It's still there. It's still there. You have still made an idol and you need to get rid of it, okay? Because nobody knows what the Christ looks like. I've just told you. Nobody even knows who the Christed are, okay? There are 288 divine souls and nobody knows who they are. So how we can be making images of them, or of one of them, or even 2, 3 of them, because we've got images of Mary as well, okay, and a Mary Magdalene and baby Jesus, right? Nobody knows who they look like. Nobody. And so, yes, do not make any idols. Do not pray to any idols. Do not go to a church that has idols. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Every single modern Christian, this is you. But anyone who hates a fellow believer is still living and walking in darkness. Such a person does not know the way to go, having been blinded by the darkness. 1 John 2:11. Right. So I always put this down when they hate on me, okay, because I literally do not hate on them. And when I am engaging in discussions with them, I keep it to the knowledge. You know, I try not to label them ignorant. On some occasions I do. I try not to. Okay, maybe years ago I was a little bit more forthcoming with the labels, but I tried to keep it about the knowledge and try to keep it neutral. But they, oh my God, they will basically call me every word in the book. They will literally call me a demon, a devil. They will literally tell me that I deserve to suffer in hell for all eternity. And I am sure if they were still burning people at the stake, these people will have no problems in finding where I live, finding who I am, and hoisting me up on a stake and burning me alive. Okay, they would do that because they hate anybody that does not believe what they believe. And that literally is showing them not to be really of Christ or Christ-like. Okay, because I don't remember Jesus ever telling anybody to go and get non-believers and burn them at the stake. Okay, all right. So for they love the glory of men more than the glory of God. We see them doing that. I'm reading the comments after. I'm trying to get through my notes. Okay, so I'm sorry that I'm not doing it right now. I've got a couple more verses to go, and then I'm going to scroll back and go through the comments. All right. So for they love the glory of men more than the glory of God. And again, that's pretty self-evident when they're listening to the preachers and their New Age gurus telling them what to believe rather than listening to Jesus the Christ, rather than emulating the actions of Christ. All right. Now, I'm actually at the end. There we go. We got through it. Oh, we got through it, and we went a little bit over 2 hours. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I do say I try and make these streams 2 hours, but sometimes they go over because there's just so much that I need to relay. I mean, it's not easy when you've got so much knowledge and you're trying to squish it all down. And then I know that we get new people that join the stream, so I feel that I have to repeat a lot of things that they've missed previously. So, okay, I will go back and I will look at some of your comments. Okay. Any recommendation, any recommended books to study numerology? Arthur Waite book on tarot doesn't have a lot of info. There is so much disinfo out there. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you about that. Okay. And actually, that's the thing about esoteric knowledge. You're not going to actually find one book that's going to give you all of the information. It's something that you learn along the way as you are investigating the knowledge and researching and studying all the texts. You will start to see how the numbers relate to certain operations. Now, Rider-Waite Tarot, the Major Arcana, is an awesome way to shortcut yourself into understanding the numerology. So I would just concentrate on looking into the symbolism on the Rider-Waite Tarot cards, specifically the Arcana, the Major Arcana, okay? Don't really worry about the smaller ones. Again, the Tarot was a way to occult the knowledge, okay? And there are many verses I've read out previously in regards to how the Tarot is not for fortune telling. It was just a way they hid the information, okay? And they occulted it. So Arthur Waite's tarot is the best tarot I have found. It's the most complete, accurate tarot that I have found in relation to the symbolism. So literally just look at the symbols, look at the number. Numbers are also pretty literal, okay? So like 0, the Fool, 0 meaning before everything was created. If you look at the Fibonacci sequence, you can actually look at the tarot, look at the Kabbalah tree of life, and look at the Fibonacci sequence and merge them together, and that will give you a better understanding of numerology. But that's pretty much all I can say, is just continue to research and have your tools on hand. So the tarot, the Fibonacci sequence, and the Kabbalah tree of life. Okay, the Queen's color is the one that I use. I have those in my Pinterest folder, which is linked underneath this video. I've put them all down there. I've got a Kabbalah tree of life there, and I've got the Major Arcana from the Rider-Waite Tarot as well. So use them in conjunction with the Fibonacci sequence, because the Creator literally talks in numbers. Everything it's like the backbone of the created material universe, and even the ethereal plane as well, is numbers, is sacred geometry. And so it's very important you understand sacred geometry, because that's what they've used. They've used the sacred geometry and the Fibonacci sequence to encode all of the knowledge about divine operation in the material and ethereal realm, and equate that to archetypal symbolism. So have a look at those tools, and they should help you a lot with your numerology. Timothy 2:9-15, I don't have that on hand. If you're going to give me verses, I'm not one of those people that just study the Bible in a way that I regurgitate and parrot it back and I know each verse, because there are a lot of modern Christians that do that. They literally study the text, study the holy text word for word, like you would go to a university and you read your textbooks and you just study it, and so that you can regurgitate it back word for word like a parrot. And they think that because they can regurgitate the verses back, you know, like a parrot, word for word, that means that they know the Bible. No, that's not how you learn the Bible. So if you want to give me Timothy 2:9-15, the literal verse, I'll look at that. But I'm not going to go and try and look up that verse now. Yeah, okay, that's another question. Yeah, I know YouTube is not giving people notifications. You're not the first person to say that, Aaron. They're not notifying people. They're pretty much shadow banning all of my videos. Very hard to find my information, but you know, that's okay. Those who are supposed to find the knowledge will find it eventually. Yeah, so I don't think that my videos ever get recommended unless you're literally typing in Thyalwaysseek, and then when you do type in Thyalwaysseek, it will bring up a whole heap of like people who have done videos about me that I haven't agreed with something that they've said, or they haven't agreed with something that I've said, and instead of just being an adult and actually having a discussion and a debate at that level, and actually referring to the ancient texts, they just, start insulting me and abusing me and calling me names and attacking me personally, which is what most people do. It's all the personal attacks. And look, once people start reducing it to personal attacks, you really know that they don't have any knowledge at all, because like, why do you have to be so threatened and so triggered, by knowledge? I mean, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Just go on with your own beliefs. But, that's what I literally do when I find a channel that I don't agree with, and there's many. People are always giving me links to new channels. I don't leave this great big, comment about everything that I didn't agree with and how they're wrong. And, I don't bother. No, I just like, yep, no, he doesn't really have anything that I'm interested in. I don't see anything worth being, subscribe to this channel. I'll move on to another channel. I do have a couple of Christian channels that I do actually relate the correct interpretation of the scriptures to, but that's different. That's not just going to random channels that I don't agree with and just, hating on them. And I don't actually hate on these Christians. I'd literally just give them the correct interpretation of the verses, and then they literally hate on me. And when they start stalking my channel, I know that they're, really triggered. Yeah, again, power electronics. I've got this feeling that you're probably someone who has seen a comment from me on one of these Christian channels. And what you've done is you've created a YouTube account, probably recently, as recent as today, or, whenever. And you've just actually joined the stream just so that you can argue with me and attack me. And you've not actually got anything of significance or any truth. You're just actually here to argue with me and fight with me. And and now you're actually just proving it. So look, thank you for being a actual example of everything that I have just said about modern Christians, because you are literally exactly what I am talking about. You don't know how to have an adult discussion. You don't know how to actually study any other texts. I don't think you've probably ever looked outside of the Bible. I don't think you've probably ever even listened to anyone other than the clergy tell you what to believe about the Bible and how to interpret the Bible. I suggest that you probably interpret the Bible exactly as your clergy have always told you to interpret the Bible. You don't know how to use your own God-gifted intellect, and you are no friend of the Christ. You are actually aligned with the Antichrists. You are actually encouraging and empowering the Antichrist. So if you think you can just write a whole heap of verses and, again, what, you know them by heart, do you? Oh, a clap, everybody. Everybody give a clap to Power Electronics. He knows them off by heart. Wow. I'm sure Jesus is going to be so impressed with you. And what are you doing to emulate Jesus? What are you doing to emulate Jesus, Power Electronics? What have you done to help the poor lately? You let any homeless into your house lately? Hey? Have you gone and fed anybody? Have you gone out onto the streets lately and gone and bought any of the homeless a meal? Given them some blankets? Hey? You're just exactly like the Christ, like the Jews. You're exactly like the Jews. Didn't you listen? Didn't you listen to what Jesus told them? Hey? You didn't listen, did you? He told them that he's the Son of God. Yes, that's right. There, you've actually put down one of the verses. He's the mediator between God and men. The man Christ. Okay? So, yeah, look, I'm not going to engage with you anymore. You are just here to create white noise. Right. So, I have deleted Power Electronics, and I'm going to remove him. Right, so I'm going to actually block him when I leave the live stream. So I'm really not interested in anything that he has to say. Because, as I said, if you want me to actually discuss the verses and the truths behind the verses, I'm happy to do that. But if you're just going to parrot the verses and just give me the verse numbers and expect me to know what they are, I don't, okay? I don't. I haven't memorized the Bible verse by verse, you know, and again, they delude themselves. They actually think that that means that they understand the Bible because they, you know, can just repeat it over and over again, word for word, but not actually understand what the parables mean. Fukius and the Bible. Yeah, Fukius and the Bible. Fukius is literally symbolizing the ages of the Ouroboros. Okay, so the Ouroboros is the great year cycle that we're in, and Fukius is literally being held by the divine man, and you know, connecting his divinity and his divine illumination with that cycle. There's literally more that can be involved in that mythology behind Fukius. I haven't looked at it for a long time. I did a video on Fukius many years ago. I think it was like 2012, before I actually found the key, the ancient Egyptian key that helped me unlock all the numerology codes and the sacred geometry in connection with the tarot and the Kabbalah tree of life. So that's with the mystery teachings of ancient Egypt, which I did in 2013. Yeah, so I think I made that video before then, so might go a little bit more into the mythology, but literally anytime you see the snake, it's in relation to the soul, in relation to the operations of the soul, and in relation to knowledge as well. Okay, so knowledge is like the sword and the snake. So the reason that we say that knowledge can be like the snake, and the snake can be either the viper that bites you or that gives you knowledge, that handed Eve knowledge in the Garden of Eden. Now, it wasn't evil that he did that, right? He was giving them self-awareness, okay? That's literally what happened in the Garden of Eden. They were innocent, so think of a child being innocent. Child has no self-awareness, so it can't sin, right? It's in innocence, complete innocence. You can only sin when you have self-awareness. Otherwise, you're just working within divine law and instinct, just like what animals do. Remember, I was telling you that animals can't sin because they work within divine law. That's why a little baby bird knows how to grow up without, you know, sometimes the help of parents, and how the parents know how to build a nest and when to build a nest, because they're working in alignment with divine operation and divine law. So Adam and Eve being given the fruit, or Eve being given the fruit, is in relation to self-awareness. And once they had self-awareness, then they had the free will to transgress divine law. So that's where the snake can be seen as positive or negative. Knowledge isn't positive or negative, but we can see that the actions of attaining divine knowledge can be negative to our lives. I mean, people were literally burned at the stake for accessing this knowledge. People are shunned. People are literally degraded, discredited, disparaged, you know, for relaying this knowledge. They're personally attacked. So there are negatives to having this knowledge. You know, it becomes very lonely because not many people understand this knowledge to the level that you will. And so you're walking the hermit's path. That's what number 9 means. It's the attainment of knowledge, the attainment, the understanding of knowledge. And so you're walking the path alone, or the path of the few, okay, which is the path to life is the path of the few, whereas the wide path to destruction is the path of the many. So that's pretty much what the snake represents. So whenever you see the snake, you know that it literally means your soul or knowledge. Okay, so when you look at Ophiuchus and you see Ophiuchus, the divine man, okay, because any of those figures up in our constellations that the mythologies are entwined, that are entwined within our mythologies are all divine, okay? Sorry, guys, mortals are just an extension of the divine. We're not that important, and so they didn't really make many mythologies about us, other than probably when we go astray, but really everything's about the divine. All the knowledge is about the divine. So whenever you see a figure up in the heavens and the constellation, the myths of the constellations are a great place to start for mythology, if you want to start with mythology, because all of the different cultures have different mythologies, and many of them about the same constellations are very much similar. Okay, so that's how they knew to encode this mythology into the constellations, because that's one thing that they can never change. They can change the days of the week, they can change the months of the year, okay, but they can't change the movement of the heavens, and they can't change the stars and the constellations. And so this is why I also have a laugh at Christians who think that they're worshipping on the Sabbath, and the Sabbath is either Saturday or Sunday, and they all argue and bicker between themselves about which it is. And really, do you really think that the same day, names of the days of the week are what they were, 3,000? I mean, there used to be 8 days to the week. There used to be 10 months of the year. I mean, you think that they haven't changed the day names, and the day names haven't been moved around. So who really knows when the seventh day, the Sabbath, is anymore? Look, as long as you just give reverence to God, at least once a week. I mean, really, if you just feel it in your heart all the time, you don't have to really make a time and a date where you give reverence and, gratitude to God the Creator. But if you want to do that, that's really what it means. Just to put aside a time that you can... Oh, my God, he's still here! All right, I'm going to go, guys. Anyway, I'm just going to tangent on, and we've gone over 2.5 hours. So I hope that I've pretty much covered how the Bible is an occulted work according to Jesus himself, and all the other information in regards to the parables and how they are just stories and myths, okay? And so great place to start for your journey into seeking out an understanding of scriptures would be to look at mythology, and the constellations, as I've said, are a great place to start with the mythologies and start looking at all of them. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here, guys. Thank you for all who stuck around the entire 2.5 hours. And again, hope you all had a lovely Easter. Next week's live stream, I think I'm going to do it about fate and destiny. I think that will be a good one, and to explain what fate and destiny actually is and what free will actually is, because there's a lot of misinformation about that too. Well, I'm going to leave it here. So have a great week, everybody. And as always, peace out.